Welcome everybody here tonight. Appreciate y'all coming back from last week. We had a little interruption with the weather. I was actually home with the flu and I stayed away, so I didn't, if anybody's got it, I didn't spread it. At this time, Mr. Harold Kay, would you present the invocation for us, please, sir?
Let us pray. Eternal kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to assemble at this appointed place at this appointed time. Father, we thank you for touching us with a finger of love this morning, starting us on another day's journey. Father, we ask that you take preeminence of this meeting tonight. Let everything everything that is said and done be to your glory and the upbuilding of your kingdom. Father, we ask that the decisions we make be to the betterment of each and every child of ASD5. Father, we ask these petitions in your mighty Son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time, it's the start of the new year. We're going to elect new board officers tonight. We'll elect secretary, vice chairman, and chairman.
Not the big.
Mr. Grant's going to come up and
All right.
lead us through
And
that
Mr.
process.
Newton is home with the flu as well, so.
Yes.
Mr. Newton.
Thank you. It's great to be with you all tonight. In accordance with Board Policy BD, the first item of business is electing board officers. As a reminder, if we have a scenario like chairman tonight, if there's more than two candidates, we will have 2 rounds of voting. If no one reaches the majority vote the first round, the one with the lowest drops out, we'll vote for the second, for the top 2. So the order's going to be the way they self-nominated. In this case, for chairman, the 3 candidates are Mr. Bradshaw, Ms. Leverett, and Mr. Bill Thompson in that order. That's the way they self-nominated. So it is a public vote. So the first name will be Mr. Bradshaw. All those in favor of Mr. Bradshaw being chairman, please raise your hand. That's 4. All those in favor of Ms. Leverett being chairman. And that's 5. That concludes the 9-member board. Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Congratulations.
Okay.
We double your pay, Sandra.
You know I like that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next office is vice chairman. We had 2 nominations, 2 self-nominations. The order was self-nominated, Mr. Dukes first, and then Mr. Kay second. So going with the same approach, all those in favor of Mr. Dukes being vice chairman, please raise your hand. And all those in favor of Mr. Kay. Congratulations, Mr. Dukes.
Thank you.
Next, the office to be considered is for secretary. We had Mr. Zug to self-nominate first, and then Ms. Burris afterwards. All those in favor of Mr. Zug for secretary? All those in favor of Ms. Burris?
Cindy, that's your name.
Mr. Zug. And Ms. Burris. All those in favor?
Vote for yourself. I ain't voting for myself.
Congratulations, Ms. Burris.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all take a recess and
Yeah.
reconfigure.
Sure.
All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess and reseat everybody.
Stay right here.
Sit your Sandra.
Yes, yes.
Secretary don't sit beside me.
She can sit wherever you sit, right there.
Here you go, right here.
Hey, you'll be
Where's
on
Sandra
this
was?
side.
Do you want to sit over here?
I'll just stay right here.
Okay,
Right side.
all right. Let's see. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, Rick, you stay then, I guess. You good, Ms. Love?
Where should the
I
secretary
thought
sit?
Ms. Burr,
Normally the
that,
chair sits there and the vice chair sits here.
okay, but secretary will sit over here on the left side of me. He gonna sit on the right
Y'all
side of
just-
me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're switching with Cindy.
Yes, Cindy sit on the left side of me.
Oh, you want Cindy right here?
Uh-huh.
Okay, okay. So you'll go where Cindy is.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait a minute, let me get my coffee.
Cindy, I'm just gonna leave all that paperwork there. You can leave that if you.
No,
No one of them's got your name on it, Tommy.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think this got mine. That same paper.
Oh, she
Yeah, my
needs that top
keys.
one.
Yeah, hang on a second. I got coffee in my hand, don't spill on you.
No, no.
There's your coffee and your keys. You'll need them.
Yeah, I'm gonna need
Hey, Cindy, is this your chicken?
chicken. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I didn't bring my glasses tonight, but I do the best I can. I don't know, do you think they're good? They're not. So here, okay, that's what we just did.
Yep.
Okay, we're back. Everything seems okay.
Yeah, that's, people to address the board. That'll come a little bit later, a little bit later.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so we can approve of the agenda. Everyone had an opportunity to read and review it and discuss it or talk about it or call in about it or whatever. Do we have a motion to approve it?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion we accept the agendas presented.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, it's been moved in second by
Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Thompson, and it was approved by Mr. Price. So we have a motion and second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda, raise your hand. All opposed, the same. Okay, the motion passes. And, to approve the agenda, and it passes unanimously. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's approved. Recognition of excellence. That's what's next.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I was just waiting on your direction. Yes, ma'am. So, School Board Recognition Month, want to thank each of you for your dedication to this district and the dedication to our faculty and staff and students, and of course, our families as well. As you look at your board mission, it says the Anderson School District 5 Board of Trustees ensures with community support the best education opportunities for every student in a secure environment. And I just appreciate each of you. The schools, most of you have picked up your appreciation gifts, but if not, they are still in conference room AB, so they are there. But I'm speaking on behalf of our principals and our schools and thanking you for what you do, and we appreciate that. And we have a special award tonight for Mr. K. Mr. K, this is your 15th year of service.
Wow.
So congratulations, thank you again for your service, and this is a In addition, you have in a folder, the South Carolina School Board Association has asked each public school district for the month of January to look at the principles of ethics, and they wanted you all to have that. So in your folder, you have that, as well as a pen with the United States flag and the South Carolina flag. So you have that as well. They wanted to make sure that you knew they were appreciative of you. Scott Price
Where
was
is
here
it?
last week. Scott Price was here last week, but unfortunately with the snow, he wanted to present that to you all in person, but unfortunately with the snow and it being rescheduled, he wasn't able to attend tonight. But he did want me to send his appreciation for each of you and is looking forward to working with you and talking with you at our training in February. Okay?
Yeah, I felt bad. He called me. I said, yeah, Scott, come on, we're having a meeting.
I know. All right, so also, we talked several, I guess it was a couple of months in November, where AIT students had helped. They worked with Coach, and Coach had identified a need in the community where several AIT students helped to build a ramp to really assist a family. And I have Ms. Broadwell here tonight from AIT. She's going to come, and we want to celebrate those students and the work that they did and the sacrifice they made helping this family. And so, Ms. Broadwell, if you'll come up so that you can introduce our students to our wonderful Board of Trustees. Dr. Estes, please remember her. She is not feeling well, so that is why she sends her apologies for not being able to come tonight as well. Yes, sir.
I want y'all to understand what you're seeing here tonight is, I don't think, you've got a principal that's worried about a student, Mr. Mayor, who went to his social worker, Howard, who came to me. We have a student in our school district who was having an issue on getting to school. The school district provides the bus, but he has a motorized wheelchair, but he cannot get down his steps at home or back up his steps. Mr. Mayor stepping up on his end to the social worker, and he needs ramp. Well, it's not school district's position to build ramps. That's not the job of their state. But we have people in the community who will give money. They gave me the money. I go straight to Dr. Estes, who that's kept secret you got in this town is AIT. Ms. Wanda Hawkins is instructor. She said my class would be glad to. We had students in that class step up, go measure, build a ramp the length of the trailer. And if anybody knows anything about building ramps, the wood was $1,600 worth of wood. That's a lot of wood. And there's cement and this, that, and the other. They were at Lowe's at 7 in the morning. Y'all know how many targets we have in the school district. These kids, 7 in the morning. There's 2 sets of parents with them that came also to help out. And these kids built as nice, the ramp's bigger than the trailer, in which they showed you those pictures before. But you're looking at 2 kids as much as I myself, when a teacher or coach or a trustee or whatever would get mad at some of these young men. These 2 people really, and their teacher, really need to be commended.
Yes, so I would just like to congratulate Ms. Haynes, the students and their parents as well. This was a capstone project for the welding students, so they took the skills that they learned in welding, applied it to a community need, so we are super proud of them. First, we have William Hawkins, and his parents are Jackie and Travis. William, you'll come on up. Okay, secondly, we have Cipriano Morales, and his parents are Mateo Morales and Norma de la Cruz. And then we have instructor Ms. Wanda Haynes. So both of these young men are from Westside High School, so go Rams. We are super proud of them, and they are outstanding students in our program. Ms. Haynes leads a very, very impressive program, so we are congratulating you all and proud of the work that you do. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm sure the board would like to shake everyone's hand.
Yes.
If you would, just make a circle around and then come right back here and we'll take a picture.
Thank you for what you did.
God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thanks for what you did. Great job.
Bless you, that's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You should have got here early.
God bless you. That's awesome.
Congratulations, we're glad to have you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
There we go. Very good.
Thank you so much for that, but it seems like that's been some months back. I wish we could have done that real earlier, but I am so appreciative because I did see that already. But I am so appreciative that we had somebody to do that for a family that needs it, because I may have one that might need it again, may need one too. But I am so glad that that happened. Okay, now we're down to, on our agenda number 7, opportunity for citizens to address the board.
We have one person.
No one's out of it.
Mr. Kelly.
Okay, we have Mr. Frank Kelton.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
On the agenda of the October 22nd, 2024 board meeting, item 8B is state report card update. But instead of an update, we visitors witnessed a 30-minute dog and pony show of detailed calculations, a total waste of time. Now that the grades are published, it is obvious why you wanted to conceal them as long as possible. Your report card is repulsive. Of the 17 graded schools in District 5, 9 have a lower grade than they had last year. Some of this information is courtesy of Mr. Bill Thompson. Over half our schools, 53%, dropped in grade, and only 59% of our schools are rated good or excellent. This is shameful. With all the back patting we see here at these board meetings, you would think we would be 100% above average. But what about the other districts in Anderson County? Let's take a look. District 1, 85% above average. District 2, 83% above average. District 3, 100% above average. And District 4, 100% above average. Well, how did we let this happen? Well, if you study the budgets, you will see that the other districts in the county are not funding a swamp for unnecessary out-of-state double dippers who add nothing to education. Other districts in this county don't have money to waste like we do. Cross-country tracks, artificial turf, extravagant downtown office buildings. They actually spend their resources on education. What a novel idea. Well, maybe our administrators are underpaid. No, they're the highest in the county. As a matter of fact, your failing superintendent will be paid $205,000 this year with another $12,000 for personal auto allowance. Plus, you're going to give her an additional $30,000 this year for doing this pathetic job, which y'all are going to call outstanding. Well, where did you go wrong? Well, these shrewd administrators bribed you board members unethically and undeserved, gave you a bonus to keep your mouth shut and don't ask questions. And 59% is what our district is suffering with because of your corruption. Your ethics and your priorities are perverted. You're not running a school system, you're running a sewer system. And sewage always starts at the top and flows down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for those positive comments.
Thank you for
Thank
holding us
you.
accountable, Mr. Kellum.
thank you for some of the things that you've said, and I will say this, after you sit down, that some of that stuff was done before I got here, so don't say I'm in that sewer business, because I'm not in the sewer business. I'm for getting things done right. And if something going wrong, we gonna figure it out, because I wasn't here when they built that thing downtown. I wasn't here. And when they did a lot of other things, I wasn't here. But I'm here now, and we'll see what we can do. And what we can do, and I've talked to the superintendent, only thing we can do to raise these grades and things is to talk to the parents, make sure the parents is doing what they're supposed to do at home, so we will be able to have these children to pass these tests. So that's what we're trying to do. Spending money, I don't know anything about that. I'm an only child. My daddy was good to me. But I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to find out about it, and then we'll get it kind of straightened out. But you know, they don't pay the board anything. When I first came on the board, I asked for some pay. I heard it when I first came on. So we don't get paid, but then they did get that, but I didn't get any of it. Okay? Well, I think I got the first one. The first one I got. Yeah. I was glad to get it myself, but you know, because I do ride around a lot with gas going on up and on up. But anyway, thank you for doing that tonight, okay? And we'll try to work with you to get some things done that you think that needs to be done, okay? And anybody else that feels that way. Because we want to be right, and we're not going to have anybody talking about our superintendent that's not doing the right thing. Okay, we did that. Now we have the superintendent's report.
Yes. All right, so we have, let me pull up my agenda. We have Ken Meadows here tonight. He has completed an audit for us, and he is going to give you the financial audit presentation and the procurement audit presentation. So, Mr. Meadows, thank you so much for coming tonight.
All right, thank you. Sarah, you got it? All right. Well, I can just hold that here. All right, we'll just deal with this. Yes, thank you. I'm Ken Meadows. I'm the audit partner with Green Penny College. It was our pleasure to serve as the auditor again this year. This year, the audit went very well, as it usually does. Amy and Dana do a great job with their finance staff. They always do a great job. You know, during the audit, I believe, when we were getting going on that was when the hurricane came through, so we had to deal with that. So staff did a great job overcoming those obstacles, getting this done in time to meet the December 1st deadline, well in advance of that for that SD. So that's good. Also, our team, I'll brag on our team. Our team did a great job. Keith Campbell, the second year serving as manager on it. He served in the past. We kind of rotate around on occasion to keep a fresh set of eyes. So David Mark had kind of rotated off. He had rotated in. He did a great job. And we have a new senior, Anthony, coming up. He's got several years of experience. He did a great job as well. So couldn't have done it without them. So anyway, as we've done in the past, we'll go through the audit presentation, the PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully you've got that in lieu of going through the financial statements. But if y'all got any questions as I go through it, feel free to stop me and let me know, or at the end of the presentation, or as y'all look at the financial statements. If y'all ever got any questions about that, please let me know. I'd be glad to take any calls or answer any emails if you need. So, looking at the one of the first things you get to in the financial statements is the audit opinion. That kind of does a good job of outlining who's responsible for what. So just as a reminder, the district is responsible for the financial statements. You're responsible for your internal controls and the accounting that underlies them. Our responsibility is to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are materially correct. So you've got the concept of materiality there. We don't look at every transaction. We may look at a sampling of transactions. We may look at higher dollar transactions. We may do some analytical reviews. And then our goal is to provide reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance that the financial statements are correct. And then secondly, it's not a forensic audit. We're not coming in here to find fraud. That's the purpose of a forensic audit. Our purpose is to give assurance that the financial statements are materially correct. And then finally, you'll see that you got an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion you can get. That's the one, so no modifications were necessary. That's the one you usually get in most school districts get, so. Next, we'll take a look at the general fund and then the other funds. Kind of give you an overview of what happened in fiscal year 24 from a financial standpoint for the general fund. You'll see there it decreased $3.5 million. The fund balance decreased $3.5 million down to $38.4 million. Of that $38.4 million, almost all of that is unassigned fund balance, and to kind of put that in perspective, your unassigned fund balance is about 26% of actual expenditures, about 25% of budgeted expenditures. The GFOA recommends a minimum of 2 months' worth, about 16.7%. So y'all are above that, y'all are closer to 3 months, so that's, y'all got a healthy fund balance in the general fund. Just to remind you why you want to have it, just from a cash flow perspective, you know, June 30th, when we come in to do the audit, you've collected the property taxes at the beginning of the calendar year. And so you've still got 6 more months worth of operations to fund before any more property taxes start coming in. So you want to have enough cash kind of set aside to fund the cash flows for the operations in the back half of the calendar year. And you also want to have it for emergencies and then just future spending. You'll see there in the fund balance it's kind of grown over time, particularly that was really helped by the ESSER funding that you received. Well, now that ESSER funding's running out. So hopefully you built up the fund balance so that will kind of help bridge the loss of the ESSER funding without curtailing services. So, so that's a real quick overview of the fund balance. Next we'll look at revenues and expenses for the year. In the general fund, you'll see revenues were about $151 million. Most of that came from the state, about $87 million. And the other big portion of that comes from property taxes, about $58.6 million. And you also had about $5.4 million from other revenues. Most of that is probably investment earnings on your cash. Compared to last year, revenues increased about $15 million. You'll see the state increased their funding by about $7 million. Property taxes increased about $6.3 million. And then investment earnings with the increase in the interest rates in the fiscal year increased about $1.8 million. Compared to budget, revenues came in higher than budgeted. Once again, primarily due to property taxes coming in higher, investment earnings coming in higher than budgeted, state revenues came in higher than budgeted, and then also other revenues. So that's a quick overview of general fund revenues. Next, we'll look at general fund expenditures and then transfers. You'll see expenditures were $145 million for fiscal year 24. That's about a $6 million or 4% increase from the prior year. That was mainly due to increases in instruction and support services, and then offsetting those increases was a decrease in capital outlay in the general fund for fiscal year 24. Compared to budget, expenditures came in under budget by about $3 million, and that was mainly due to budgeted items being budgeted in the general fund, but actually ESSER funds were spent on those. So you budgeted it, but the actual spending came from ESSER funds, which would be a special revenue fund. And then also unfilled positions. So you budgeted some positions that were unfilled for a portion of the year, and that creates a positive budget variance. Offsetting those positive budget variances was a higher than budgeted capital outlay as well. And then down at the bottom, you'll see transfers in $14.1 million into the general fund. That was mainly state aid to classrooms coming from the state that flows through the special revenue funds, and then also indirect cost funding from some of the special revenue funds and food service. Transfers out were about $23.6 million to the capital projects fund in the fiscal year. And that's the general fund. Next, we'll look at the special revenue funds. There you'll see the special revenue, the special projects fund, the EIA fund had a $4.2 million carryover at year end. That's compared to about $3.1 million in the prior year, so you carried over a little bit more funding that you can use in fiscal year 25 for these special revenue funds. And then you also had fund balance of about $4.4 million. You'll see most of that, a chunk of that's Medicaid-related expenditures, $2.3 million. Assignments for that. Student activities had a fund balance of $1.5 million. The Ed Foundation had about $500,000 fund balance at year end, and then you had a little bit restricted for technology upgrades. Looking at your food service fund, you had a $2.9 million fund balance at year end for the food service fund. That was a decrease of about $1.1 million from the prior year. That was a planned decrease that y'all spent a fair amount on equipment, food service equipment this year. The South Carolina Department of Education has a goal for food service that your fund balance should not be above 30%, and so yours was actually below that this year, about 26%, so that's good. A lot of my school districts struggle with that. They struggle to get it down below that 30%, so that's good that y'all actually achieved that. Next, we'll look at capital assets and the capital projects fund. You'll see this past year, capital assets increased by about $4.9 million in total. You had construction additions of about $7.4 million this past fiscal year. The big construction projects were the T.L. Hanna roof for about $2 million. The HVAC at Westside and Calhoun were about $2.6 million. You also purchased some machinery and equipment, almost $6 million worth of machinery and equipment. That included camera systems of $1.8 million, teacher laptops for $1.2 million, culinary equipment, and then the adaptable playground. And I believe everything but the culinary equipment, that was all funded with ESSER funds. So, the capital projects fund at year end had a fund balance of almost $94 million. You'll see local option sales tax revenues came in about $12 million, so you almost generated almost $1 million a month in local option sales taxes for the capital projects fund. You also transferred out $4.5 million to the debt service fund, fund debt service in the debt service fund. And then you transferred in $23.6 million from the general fund this year. And at year end, you had some construction commitments of about $2.6 million. So the capital projects fund had a very healthy fund balance at year end. Looking at long-term obligations and the debt service fund, you'll see long-term obligations decreased about $2.6 million this year, mainly due just to principal payments on your bonds and amortization of premiums. So at year end, you had debt outstanding of almost $164 million. You'll see the debt service fund had a fund balance of about $6.1 million at year end. And local option sales taxes that flowed into the debt service fund this year were about $3 million.
Does that $164 million include our state retirement obligations, our share of the?
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good segue here. The next slide, you'll see the net position, statement of the net position to kind of give you your assets for the district, assets and liabilities. You see your major assets there, cash and cash equivalents at June 30th were $159 million. You had some receivables of about $14.6 million. And then the other big category of assets were your capital assets and your investment in AIT. Total there about $264 million. Offsetting that were liabilities and deferred inflows and outflows. Accounts payable accrued expenses were about $28 million at June 30th. You had the long-term obligations, like I mentioned, the debt was $164 million. And then you get what Mr. Thompson mentioned, the net pension out accounts and net OPEB accounts. You'll see those were about $140 million at year end a piece. So as I remind you, that's really your allocation of the state's unfunded pension plan and the state's unfunded OPEB plan. Those aren't technically, they're technically liabilities from an accounting perspective, but that's not something that you'll have to pay. It's not like the state's gonna come to you and ask you to pay for that. How you do pay for it is when you participate in these plans, you pay a lot to participate in these plans. So the employees, pay a fair amount and then the employers pay even more, so.
What is that overall balance, the negative on the state pension overall? Do you know?
I do not know.
Something like
It's-
20 or 22 billion?
It's billions.
And we keep
yeah.
giving away billions every year instead of,
It's been billions and it's stayed fairly static. I think the pensions probably come down a little bit, but I think the OPEB's come down, but the pensions kind of going up or whatever. But they seem to stay fairly static, unfortunately, with all the funds going into it. I think unfortunately, they started raising the rates a little bit too low. You know, from what I understand, at least in recent years, the amount of inflows that come into the state plans, basically it just comes in and goes right back out. So unfortunately, it takes a while to overcome this deficit. But fortunately, you know, it's not like they're going to come to y'all and say, hey, stroke us a check for that, but it does impact your costs. That's the downside. So in total, you had a deficit because of those, the pension and the OPEB accounts of about $26.6 million this year in that position. So that's a quick run through of the financial statements. We also do we also look at the compliance with the federal grants. We do a single audit. We looked at a couple of different programs this year. We looked at your IDEA program, the disabilities program, and then we looked at the ESSER program as well. Both of those. The ESSER program in particular had a lot of money coming through it this year. So y'all did well on that. Y'all abided by all the federal guidelines. We didn't have anything in either one of those programs that were finding a significant weakness or significant deficiency or material weakness. Also, we didn't have any internal control deficiencies that we noted that would be a significant deficiency or material weakness. So from the control standpoint, everything looked good as well. You've also got the management letter there in front of you. That's the required communications to the board that the AICPA just believes is important. You'll see that letter's fairly standard. It's pretty much the same thing that we issued last year. But if you have any questions on any of that, please let me know. I'll be glad to discuss that with you.
So,
if you want to.
stuff like this, if there were signs of embezzlement or wrongdoing, would y'all come across that?
If we came across it, we would let you know.
Okay.
Definitely.
Unlike our county board, which let it go on and didn't catch it.
Yeah. Although I will say, you know, it's not a forensic audit, so.
Okay.
But yes, certainly if we come across anything that appears questionable or fraudulent, we would look into it and alert y'all to that. But thankful that there's not been like that, so hopefully that continues, so.
On slide 5, you mentioned $6 million increase in instruction and support. Do you have any specifics, or Brenda, maybe you could give us, Superintendent, specifics on instruction?
Yeah, we can ask Amy to pull that and look
Yeah.
at that piece.
Normally, that is salaries and benefits, because that's your number one. And I know salaries and benefits.
I know we
I know you
added
added that.
additional, we took, because you know ESSER
The
ended.
ESSER, yeah, you
And
mentioned
so
that.
we took some pieces like Berentis. They had utilized additional teaching assistants, and that's when they saw that huge growth in their academic achievement and closing the gaps. And so we took that and built it into our general fund, because ESSER was ending.
Right.
So that could be the extra additional salaries, and we did those for each school,
And
so.
the teacher salaries, we gave fairly large
Yes,
teacher salaries,
yes.
that's a big one. All the teaching
Yes.
assistants, we gave $3,000 raises, so.
Yes, and $2,500 to teachers, $3,000 to
And
each
then
assistant.
retirement increases went up on the employer.
Yes.
Health insurance went up a lot on the employer, so all those. But we can give you one.
Yeah, we'll get you specifics.
I don't need it line by line. I was assuming it was the ESSER replacement. Could I get a report on the schools and how many assistants they do have, whether they're title or whether they're non-title?
Teaching assistants as well in kindergarten, or do you
No,
want
no,
like
we'll need
the-
those, yeah.
the
Anybody
extra?
that's extras.
I got you.
Interventionists
Yeah.
that they
We get that
mentioned
to
in
you.
our, yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Got couple of questions if we're in a good spot.
All right.
On the presentation, it talks about us being in great financial condition.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I
haven't
can't
quite
hear.
gotten
I'm
to
sorry.
That, slide yet.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
That's the
I'm
that's
sorry.
the next slide, so that's fine. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Just, just to summarize the financial thing, and then we'll come back right back to
Okay.
that. You've got an unmodified opinion, the audit went well. I think y'all are in great financial condition, as of June 30th, looking at your, fund balance. And then you all received the GFOA and the ASDO awards for excellence in financial reporting now for more than 20 years in a row. I can't remember the exact thing, so probably coming up closer to 25 years. So, anyway, back,
So based on the statement about, or the assertion, we're in great financial position, that's based on our fund balance is what, I mean, I know you put a lot of factors in, but if you could maybe elaborate
I
on
would
that.
say your fund balance being that you've got 3 months worth of fund balance in the general fund, that's a healthy fund balance. Given that your revenues compared to your expenditures, I think y'all were in a healthy shape there this past fiscal year, so your revenues exceeded your expenditures. You've got a healthy fund balance in your capital projects fund. That's very well funded, so if y'all got some big capital projects, y'all don't immediately need to issue debt for that, so that's good. Y'all are paying down your debt. So I think that's good. I think y'all reserved some, monies, I can't remember, I think in the general fund or the capital projects fund to pay off some of the, local option sales tax, debt that you issued in years past. So, yeah, so in my opinion, y'all are in good financial shape. I mean, especially compared to a lot of school districts.
Last quick question. There's in one of the binders I read about an attachment A where you advise us to just to watch for like pupil activity or student activity.
That is correct.
Can you explain to me, Ms. Hurd, exactly what we're talking about? Are those like, say, booster?
Yes, sir. Well, pupil activity is your school funds. So for preschool through the 8th grade, the money is collected at the school level and it is deposited at the school level. When the K through 8 write checks, they actually follow the same procedures as the school district itself, coming through that. The high schools collect the revenues for them and they write their own checks separately. So that's what we call the school pupil activity accounts. Just due to, and Ken, you can correct me or change it, just due to the sheer fact that we have changed in the last probably 18 months and gone a lot of online payments. But in the past, it's been a lot of cash payments. Parents coming in to pay yearbooks, field trips, just any kind of fundraiser we do, Jeans Day, Hat Day, ice cream sales, all of that's flowing through the schools. And so that, I think, is the reason for that comment, is just due to the sheer number of cash that comes in and the limited amount of staff. So each school has a secretary and a data clerk in the office. The data clerk does data for attendance and those kind of things. K through 8, they have a secretary that is the principal secretary and the school bookkeeper. The high schools, due to the athletics, the principals have a secretary and they also have a bookkeeper that does that. So there's just not many staff that you can see in my department. Even though I don't think we have a large department, I can designate one person to open the bank statement, one person to put in new vendors, to where we can segregate the duties, where they're gonna have to actually collude together to commit fraud, where when one person is doing all of the duties, it's a lot easier. But, Ken's staff and them come out, and the finance staff as well. We didn't do it this past year, but, we can, if that's what you guys would like. But the finance staff goes out and randomly audits the schools twice a year to check the things, to try to kind of see that they're following all of the guidelines that we give them.
Is that not what you're sort of advising us to do, is to just check? Like, I don't know what you're recommending a frequency, but you're saying, hey, it has been the case in other areas that these are areas where you could have fraud, so it's worth checking.
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
We recommend, like Amy says, that her staff goes out there and periodically
Okay.
checks up on those. Like Amy mentioned, we've done it in the past ourselves, as a separate engagement.
Okay.
So it really doesn't matter to me whether we do it or whether they do it, as long as someone's looking at it.
Okay.
I will say that's a pretty common comment that we have for almost every school district.
Right.
Because everyone's got a bookkeeper out at the schools that, you know, a lot of times they're receiving the money in, but they're also recording the money. Well,
Right.
if that money goes missing, they just don't record it.
Yeah.
And no one, a lot of times, is the wiser. Or if they're spending the money, if they spend it on something inappropriately, well, they're also recording it, so maybe they cover it up by recording it incorrectly or something like that. So, since that's a risk, it's not a huge dollar amount, although,
Sure.
I mean, the high schools do have a lot of money flowing through it. But it is a risk, and that's probably one of the more risky areas, so
Okay.
we always call it to the board's attention.
But Mr. Thompson, I do think you are correct, and I think Ken would agree as well. Booster clubs are a major fraudulent risk as well, but those funds don't run through the school district. So both high schools athletic booster clubs, the band booster clubs, we don't see that money. They have a separate, I don't want to call it a board, but they do have a PTO president, booster club president, a treasurer, just exactly like the PTOs as well. And so that money is handled all by volunteers, and so that is another area that we do find very risky. We try to provide some guidance to the booster clubs on good practices, but those funds don't come into our district at all, so it is a lot of times. It's one of those that when you hear it in the newspaper, they're always gonna attach the school district, high school, middle school, elementary school name to it, but the school district really didn't have any involvement as probably because the funds weren't coming into the school.
And Bill, those organizations like PTOs, booster clubs, all have to file their own 990 nonprofit tax return too, so they are standalone. Even I think a few years ago, easily had one where somebody embezzled a bunch of money from the booster club. So
But we
it's-
do have the ability to go look at them, is what we're saying. I mean, I just wanna make sure what you're telling us, not necessarily because of us, you're just saying y'all see those are areas for potential problems.
Yeah, those would be risky areas.
Right.
Like, you know, like probably booster clubs, PTAs, if you just look around, when you see a problem at a school, it's probably one of those usually. And like Amy said, those aren't really, those are all about volunteer-led
Right.
organizations. So you do have some oversight if you want to exercise it.
The problem is, it's gonna fall on the district. That is gonna be a
Yeah.
stain on the district if there's, okay.
Yeah, so even though they're volunteer-led organizations, you give them the ability to operate in your schools, so you can
Okay.
expect cooperation back from them.
Thank you.
And most of them self-police, because I know over the years, some of them have seen things, because there's a lot of cash for souvenirs, concessions, and most of them kind of watch each other, to be honest, what I've noticed over the years, you know, it's a, I don't know, Amy, I've had a discussion a lot, it's a,
And the principals here can tell you that I stand up every year and I tell them that if you have any concerns, because sometimes they probably get the bank statements from these organizations, that if there are ever any questions, and I've had some principals do this, and we have reached out to their booster club, to call our office, let us be the bad guys, not the principals, because they have to work in relationship with the booster clubs, but just to kind of say, hey, you know, this just something doesn't feel right, this doesn't look right, I don't have enough documentation behind it, then we'll take that from our office and reach out to them and ask for some additional details to audit it. So they do that from a school standpoint, from their pupil activity, if they think, you know, just thought we had more money than that, or even an outside organization, that they typically call me if they think that they're concerned about something.
All right, I'll move on into the procurement audit.
and let me
Next.
back up. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, it's just, you have a lot of turnover in and I won't call it staff, but members of those clubs. So they, you know, when you've got consistency, you know who's who, but they do get a lot of turnover. When kids graduate and move on to the next level, so they get a lot of turnovers membership there. So it is a,
And one other thing, the state just passed a new law last year that went into effect and will be continuous. And the board receives the booster club treasurers before August 1st of every year. and we do a background check on those treasurers to ensure that there are no issues since they will be handling. So that is a new process that is required. The state didn't tell us that we had to do a background check. The state said that we had to find out the treasurer for any booster organization, and we have to share the names with the board. And so we do that. But for our board, we wanted to take an extra step, one more step, which the law allowed us to do, but we have to pay for that, obviously. But we wanted to make sure that no one that was managing the money for an outside organization had any criminal duties or backgrounds that we found could harm our schools.
And PTAs and the booster clubs, all two signatures on a check required?
We can pass that along.
Oh, okay.
We do
Thought
that.
that was standard operating procedure.
It should be.
Mhm.
We tell them that, but
Mhm.
again, we don't see the checks.
Mhm.
So I can't promise that's always happening. Another thing that I would tell you that is a big no-no is don't write the check to yourself and then you be assigned.
No.
But we have to police that sometimes as well. In that I'm the treasurer, but I was told I also do cupcake duty for my class, and we had enough money, so I bought the cupcakes. Well, I pay myself back, but I'm the signer on the check too. So we do try to tell the schools where, these are some things that we wouldn't do. We also try not to have employees to be treasurers or officers in an outside organization, but we do have some, but they sign documents with the district, and those, if they are a treasurer, you see that information, but they also sign a document saying that they're doing that as a volunteer and it is not part of the school district.
All right, next I'll move on to the procurement, agreed upon, procedures portion of the, presentation. Each year we come in and do what's called, sometimes it's a procurement audit, but really agreed upon procedures. So the state mandates most of the large school districts to do a procurement audit each year or every 3 years. But most of them do it every year rather than just doing a big one every 3 years. So Scott and Wes, I appreciate all the help that they gave us during the procurement audit. We come in. And as I go through it, you'll kind of get an idea of kind of what we did. The state actually determines what we need to do. They tell us how many transactions we need to look at, and all that. So that's it's not up to us. We actually do the work, but they say you need to look at 46 supplies and services, information technology, and consulting procurements. And then they kind of say you should break it down so it's not, so it's kind of representative. So you'll see here we looked at 46 different procurements ranging from one greater than $500,000, then down to 32 that were between $10,000 and $25,000. So we looked at all of those. We also looked at 3 major construction procurements and 2 architectural and engineering procurements. Make sure that those were bid out properly and all of that. We also look at your procurement card transactions. We looked at a sampling of those. We look at purchasing activity for 2 months worth of purchasing activity to make sure that there's no favoritism being shown for certain vendors, making sure that people aren't splitting purchases or procurements to get around the thresholds. But you have certain thresholds where you can get certain approvals or bid it out at certain levels and all that. So you want to make sure that people aren't splitting things to get around, circumventing those controls. We also looked at all sole source and emergency procurement transactions. So you've got some sole source things that you can only buy from one vendor for whatever reasons. Well, that's got to be justified. Also, if there's an emergency procurement, sometimes it's if someone's stuck in the elevator or something like that, you kind of get it, or HVAC goes down in the middle of the summer. So you've got an emergency. So we looked at those to make sure that those were all properly approved and completed. We also looked at your procurement ratifications. That's if someone does a procurement that doesn't abide by the procurement code, it has to go through a ratification process. This year there were none of those, so hopefully that means everyone's abiding by the procurement code. That's what it should say. You've also got your minority business utilization plan and those reports, and we looked at that, and everything looked good there as well. So, in total, you've got the procurement report there, that just details a lot more of what we did, and our findings, and basically everything looked good. There were no findings, from the procurement report, nothing to report there, everything looked good. So, we provided this report already down to the state. They've already accepted it. So everything looked good from a procurement standpoint. Scott and Wes do a great job as far as we can tell from our ADP and everything. So we also did a physical inventory at June 30th of the warehouse. And like we do every year, we looked at like 50 different items, did 50 test counts. I think we had one small discrepancy. Usually we don't have any, so nothing there that concerned us. Everything looked good. I think the warehouse is doing a great job, as they always do. It just kind of lets you know kind of the volume that's going through that warehouse. You know, $700,000 worth of materials flow through there a year. About 1,100 orders, and the inventory is about $250,000. So to misplace a box of envelopes every once in a while is not. You're doing a great job at that. So just in summary, I think you got a very good procurement organization. I think management's doing well in that regard. So I think that's it for me. I will say, if y'all got any questions, feel free to let me know. You know, we work for the board. We take that seriously, that, you know, y'all hire us, so we come in and work for y'all. So if y'all ever got any concerns or anything, let us know. We come in the springtime and in the summer for inter procedures. We're glad to look at anything that may concern you then, and then we come back in the fall to do the final field. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Meadows.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Hurd, if you want to come up and do our monthly financial reports.
Just one thing, Mr. Thompson, I think you had asked a question about it, the debt, the $164 million that Kim was talking about that was left on debt. That is from actually two, bonds. One was our $140 million 2007 bond referendum that we added some additional schools, and then every elementary school was renovated. And then $30 million in sales tax debt. And that is where we talk about, on the reports that y'all get monthly, the debt service on the sales tax. I think when we met at the board retreat, we said we had all the sales tax debt had to be paid with sales tax money. So that $30 million will be gone when the sales tax is gone, and the other goes through 2040. That was approved by the voters in 2007.
And we refinanced that big
We
one
did
several years to get a lower rate,
save
yeah.
Several millions of dollars. It would be very expensive to be building and not have funds right
I don't know if
now.
refinance was the proper term, but we did, got a different rate or something, I remember that.
It was refunding and advance refunding.
Yeah, okay.
So, yep. So, speaking of sales tax, let's start with that. You have the, Craig, did they have all the documents back that they can see?
I can present again.
Sales tax? Yes, I know Mr. Thompson had asked for that, I think last month, to be able to see when I was talking about the sales tax.
Good.
Probably in there.
It's in our folder. I had it up. It's in our folder, the sales tax and
Oh, it's on
financial
the
statement, yeah, yeah.
It's on the desktop.
Mr. Thompson, do you have that?
I do have it. I was gonna see if the audience could have it.
Okay, so in looking at the sales tax, the December collection is for October, and the district received $1.3 million. So back to kind of confirming what Ken said, that we get about $1 million a month. And $263,000 of that goes toward debt payments, and a little over $1 million went for the capital project. So that's where the $1 million per month came in. Now, this is the second time in a row, which has been very unusual for me, that I have come to the board and said that this collection is $45,000 less than the same time last year. For the last several years, I know before, because we really expected it to go down in 2020, and it did not. So really, since its inception, we've been getting more each year, each compared month to month versus years. It's always gone up. We've had a few outliers, but this is 2 months in a row that our collections in this year are less than last year. But at the same time, we did collect $147,000 more than last month. And so that was October. A lot of things could have played into that. If we had any Halloween festivities, if Clemson was playing at home. So there's some numbers there that may play into that. All right, and then moving over to,
We're just trying to get.
Yeah, she's trying to get me where you're talking because I was on something else.
okay,
Yeah, where we headed?
the balance sheet, or the financial statements, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's the third one. You have that one up. That's it.
Right here.
Alright, so, I know mine's page for y'all, this is kind of scrolling, but on the balance sheet, on the second page there, you'll see our current month fund balance. It's negative $75,000.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can we get it up on the screen, or is that not possible?
Yeah,
So
that's
the-
what it,
So the audience can see it, like, not me, I can't see it, but,
yeah.
I don't know that we have that.
okay,
We will make sure that we have that. in
okay,
future.
thank you.
Is that right there?
That's it.
Okay.
Because I don't typically put it on the website until after you guys see it. So it will be up in the morning on our website like it is every month, but we will make sure that we have that, for next month. So, I'm sorry, the fund balance is negative $75,000 for the month of December. That is not typical for December. It's typically a positive month. And I think that, and last year it was $2.9 million into the positive. So, I was like, oh boy, let's do some research and see what is going on. And I think we can explain it if you go to the next slide down where you're actually looking at the revenue page. And it's very hard with property taxes. If we were to take property taxes and show them from October to February over a 5-year period, they fluctuate because you get them in October. Some people want to pay them right away and get them off their minds. Some people's is escrow, and, some want to pay them by year end to get a tax break. So it's not something that's flowed equally. Over the time frame of October to February, we're gonna get to the same number toward the end, but we kind of fluctuate over really November, December, and January. A few months ago, the treasurer, a few years ago, the treasurer called and said that the escrow payment from one of the major mortgage companies didn't make it in time and was millions and millions of dollars for the school districts. So we didn't get that payment until the end of February, even though that was all due to them by the end of January. So it's one of those things, and I say that to say, in looking at December's revenue this year versus December's revenue last year, we're $1.8 million behind at the same time on collection. Now, I think that when we get to February, and I'm telling you the February collections from 2025 versus 2024, we're gonna have additional revenue from between the 2 years, just due assessments and then all the payments being in. But right now, I think that's the reason I think it's just a timing issue, that once we get through the property taxes all being collected, we'll be in our budget and financially we're in good shape. Our investments on income were $400,000 more this year than we were last year. And then our reimbursements for transportation were $100,000 less this year than last year. And again, I think that's just a timing issue. We get the information in the finance department and we bill it out. And I think just looking at the period of billing, we have not sent out as many bills this year as we had the same time last year. So we're working with transportation on that. State revenues coming in really well. I think that's kind of the highlights for revenue. So then the next 100 pages is about the expenses. And some of the highlights there is this is the second, we're in the second year, it started last year, of paid parental leave. And I think that we have a good handle on it now. I think our employees and Ms. Elrod's department has a good handle on it now. And so I think that teachers and staff members are taking advantage of it. Is it for all staff or just teachers? It's all staff. Okay, I'm sorry, just hit me on my so they can get paid leave while they're out on maternity leave. And so that has really increased this year over last year. Obviously, ESSER has ended. We knew that was going to happen. We planned for that. But that's also some additional costs that we have. If you're looking at the 2 years, why is there more spending at some of the schools than from previous years? It's because during the budget process, we put in some of the personnel. We had like 40 staff members, we only kept 16. But those 16 are now in the general fund budget that they were not there last year in some cases. And so that's caused some additional expenditures as well. I don't see anything to be concerned about on the general fund. I think that the revenue is coming in at a good pace. I'm not hearing from the state that we're gonna have any budget cuts right now, which is a good thing. But obviously, I'm always listening. The big news for everybody that I'm sure, I know Mr. Price is aware of it, because he emailed me today and said, what does this mean? And we obviously are looking at it as well, but we have an executive order that the federal funds have been frozen. I was like, suspended was not the right word. Frozen. So we do not know right now what that means for us. Obviously, we still have to continue to serve our Title I schools, our special needs population, our homeless children. Everything will stay moving along until we get further guidance on that. And then if for some reason the funds will not be coming in, all of those kind of grants are on a reimbursement basis. So we have spent the money, and then the quarter after we spend the money, we request it back. So we're really waiting to try to hear when is it suspended, frozen. So that came today. So we're talking to the state. They're trying to get additional guidance, because if we're not going to get our federal funds, we will definitely need a board meeting to try to determine what we're going to do with all of the staff that's in our federal programs. If that's going to stop this year, or if it's going to stop later, if we can get through this year, then we can obviously address it during the budget process. So we are aware of that. We got that guidance today, and we're waiting on some guidance from the state as well. They don't have any either, but we've been in contact with them. We got it from national, we got it from the federal government, and so we reached out, because the money goes from federal to the state to the school districts. So we're following our channels, because I'm sure they're talking to the federal government. But we didn't hear anything before I left. That came out, our original email came out about 11 o'clock today. So we'll keep you updated if we hear anything, because that could potentially be substantial to us. So I will keep you updated on that. And then the final thing that I have for you tonight is that I'm going to pass out a sheet. This was discussed at our board work session that we had in January, at the 1st of January. There was some discussion on school board travel and the ability for school board members to have a credit card for their travel. And I know some folks probably feel very strongly about wanting it, and some folks feel very strongly about not wanting it. So what we are going to offer is that we're going to give the opportunity for each board member. I have a form that I need you to fill out saying yes or no. Just so we have it on file that, when Ken audits us, that we didn't just randomly pick board members who, couldn't have this or not have this. What we're starting with right here is Mr. Orr's office will be getting you a Bank of America card if you choose to have one. that you could use for your traveling. Ms. Wright will give you the card when she gives you all your travel information. She will still continue to make all of your arrangements for you, but when you go to check in, you have to give your personal card, and I know that there was
That's
some
right,
discussion that
yeah.
that you guys didn't want the board members to have to, put that on your personal cards. So we took that to heart and have been working with Mr. Orr and Bank of America to get you cards. The cards will be issued in your name, and any expenditures on the card will follow the state, website laws that we do now, and will be posted online under your name. So just wanna make sure that you're aware of that whatever goes on the card will go to the website listed under your name. You don't have to take a card. There's an option here to say, I don't want a card. I'll still pay and let the district reimburse me. That is absolutely fine. We just want to be helpful if you find that this is something that you would want to do. And then when you come back from travel, you'll need to give Ms. Wright the receipts and the card back, and she will keep those locked up until the next event where you travel. So I'll pass that out before you leave tonight. If you can just check that you want it or you don't want it and sign it and date it for me, that would be perfect.
I can like doing my own. Well, if we get back home, yeah.
And, final thing for me is we will start, just remember, if you have any budget items from the board direction, I know Mr. Dix, we're gonna get you your assistance information, so we'll get that out to you. Just let me know, we will be, starting budget discussions in February. Don't know how much I'll know from the state, when we meet, but we will tell you anything that we do know. I did go to, a meeting last Tuesday. I was coming back from Columbia, as y'all were meeting in work session, and, we got a lot of proposed bills that they talked about and the impact on public education for those. And so if we don't have any additional information, I will start talking about some of those, what could impact us. I don't want to waste a lot of your time on what may happen, but some of them might be of interest if they do come through. But so we'll start talking. We've been working on teacher-pupil ratios. We have some additional meetings in regards to that. Our principals meeting, as y'all saw, the budget calendar are at the end of February, except for the high school. So we're working on it. We're getting ready, and we'll be ready to give you some additional information next month. Thank you.
I got a quick question. I certainly would never want a board member to have to put a card down for their hotel and it causes them any stress, but do we need to do anything policy-wise about this? I mean, does the board feel like there needs to be anything other than this form to get this done? I just want to make sure we're doing
Well,
our,
you
doing what we're supposed to.
State procurement code. I mean, she knows my thoughts on cards.
Well, I didn't like using my own card, but I don't like the wordings on some of that, because I just rather use my card.
Okay.
So do we have anybody that wanted a card?
That's good, because when you walk up, that's the first thing they ask you, for your card.
You're right. And the district will always reimburse you, for that, and finance tries to be very, very mindful of that. We try to get that back to you very quickly, because you are right, we know that you guys are not paid, and that you are doing us a service by going to the training to, gain additional information for your roles. And we do not, Ms. Leather, you're right, we do not want you to be without funds that are yours.
Yeah, just as you give me my money back, that's
Yes,
fine.
but unfortunately, if I do give you a card, these regulations and rules have to be followed, or Mr. Meadows here would be telling you that we were not following our internal controls and our procedures, of posting them and getting the documentation back.
Well, I don't like paying no tax.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hurd.
I would like to make a comment to Mr. Kellum. I want to thank you for those information on the report cards, but I would like to say your attack on Dr. Kelly was uncalled for and unnecessary and unprofessional.
Thank you, Ms. Bruce. Very well said.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right,
Yes,
all right.
sir.
We are going to, if you see on the next item under superintendent's report, is Southwood improvements. As you know, well, some of you might not know, so I apologize. Couple of years ago, there was a needs assessment that was completed. And that needs assessment, there was a team that was brought in, an outside entity that visited each school. And the principals in the audits can tell you, they had to assist this team walking around, identifying areas that needed to be fixed, or areas that were just not up to the caliber that we needed them. And that report came back, I can let Wes Grant talk about that, but it was over $200 million. Well, as you know, you can't attack something like that all at one time. So what we have done since then is we have gone through and tried to prioritize. Mr. Grant and his team has gone through, tried to prioritize those items, and one of the items you're gonna see tonight came from that list. So it's Southwood improvements. So Mr. Grant, if you wanna come up and talk about the improvements that we would just like to get feedback from the board to Southwood.
Thank you, Superintendent Kelly. Very nice segue to share with you what we have here. Do you see this on your screen?
Yes.
Thanks. Yes, the restroom facilities at Southwood are dated. I think that's one way to say that. I think they were probably the original restrooms when the school was constructed, so they could use a facelift, as Dr. Kelly mentioned. It's been on the school's budget request in addition to being in our needs assessment, so it's been identified several different ways. What you see in front of you is the first level of Southwood. Just to give you an idea of where we're talking about at Southwood. The restrooms that we'd like to upgrade are around the media center. And you can see the idea here where we're pointing out with the arrows. With the idea of improving these facilities, we also have to bring the plumbing up to current, present-day international plumbing codes. So that means we have to add fixtures. So in order to do that, we would propose using the unused locker spaces that you see here on the screen. These are lockers that Southwood kids no longer use. We just have these secured so they're not temporarily storing things. They do not use these lockers, so these spaces could be used for other things. We're proposing add restroom facilities in these spaces as new restrooms and renovate the existing. So we'll be doubling the capacity that we have here on the upper level. And then that's what this screen shows, basically renovate the existing and demolishing the locker spaces and constructing the new restrooms all around the media center. In the basement of Southwood, or on ground level, it's a similar condition. We have one restroom down there that needs renovating, and we have locker spaces that are being unused down there as well. We're proposing to do the same thing here, renovate the existing and add and construct new restrooms where the locker spaces are. The idea is, as Dr. Kelly says, we do not need board action on this tonight. This is more of just a nod that you would like for us to move forward, because we will have to spend money to put together a bid package with the contractor and the architect to bring back to you guys with more detailed costs. So if you gave us the approval tonight to do that, we feel like we could bring you a cost in March, and therefore we could have these improvements done late into this school year and certainly ready by the time they start doing it.
And you did say that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You did say that you had money allocated for renovation and to do something with the schools, and
Yes,
so
ma'am,
you
Ms.
know
Hurd
not
will
to
speak
go
to that.
over that.
I presume we would take that from sales tax or.
Yes, ma'am, that's what Mr. Meadows was talking about with our capital projects funding. It would come from sales tax, capital projects, it would not be general fund.
Okay, so don't try to go over that. Don't try to go over that.
I hope not.
It will also, these
Mrs.
restrooms, if you're familiar with Southwood, they're not accessible, so this will give us an opportunity to put in accessible restrooms as well.
Mr. Zug has something to say.
So, first question, and I understand the accessibility issue. First question, is the fixture count sufficient at that school, or is it not sufficient?
Not for present day code.
Not, I'm not talking about code, I'm talking about use. Is it sufficient for their use? Is there kids waiting in line to go to the restroom, or is it?
They're all.
Okay, okay.
We saw that in the basement when I was down here.
because this is a huge undertaking. This is not something, I mean,
It's extensive.
oh, it's a,
And plumbing and things of that nature are gonna be an expensive venture. This is not making an office, it's a very expensive
Yep.
part of construction.
I know the existing building code allows you, there's 3 levels of alterations, and the existing building code allows you to do a level 1 alteration without changing, like, all you could do is go in and upgrade the toilet facilities. You could not add any or take away any. You could keep it with the same count, and that's why I asked if the fixture count is okay. Once you start adding fixtures or moving walls, well, then you do have to bring it up to the existing International Building Code or the South Carolina Building Code. So that was the reason I asked if,
It's a great question. We had those similar questions that we wanted to explore to make sure we didn't have to expand.
yeah.
And still be able to do renovations at the end, we got back to the plan. Add the fixtures, which were part of the need to expand.
Well, I will tell you,
Let me ask you, what was the award we got, the bathroom bill? It was for, what was that for?
so Kyle went to the state and had them change the law when it comes to, and this is state law, state law. South Carolina adopted the International Building Code with amendments. So they made an amendment to when you renovate the restrooms in a like an outdoor event center, like a stadium,
Okay.
that if you did not increase the occupant load of that stadium, or you could tell them on average how many occupants would come to that school, you did not have to bring the fixture count up to the current code. You could just go in and upgrade the restrooms, keep the fixture count the same. Whereas prior to that, anytime you renovated a restroom in, let's say, an outdoor event center, you had to take all the seating capacity and divide it by what the code required, and then you had to provide those fixtures for that number of occupants. And
But that was just outdoor.
just outdoor
Okay,
event
okay.
centers, yeah.
And it was a big, I remember that was a big ordeal.
And I know for a fact that the International Building Code and International Plumbing Code does extensive studies on how many students, how many people go to restrooms. So those numbers are not, they're a lot more extreme than they've been in the past, but they're real time. I mean, you really need them. And that's why I asked if there's actually anybody waiting for those. Because what happens, the kids all get out at one time, and then they flock to the restrooms, and then,
That's right.
and they recognize that. Thank you, Wes.
Wes, is this something we could do during the summer, and if not, then what would the interruption level be, noise level, that sort of thing with this kind of renovation?
Definitely, we want to minimize disruption, obviously. We talked about that with Mr. Lockus, I talked with Dr. Kelly about that. She's been very intentional with me to not be disruptive around the instructional program, which we've got the schedule for that towards the end of the school year. So what we would propose if the contractor starts near the end after those things, the testing is completed, and we will minimize disruption as best we can starting, and they assured me they can be done by August.
Okay, good.
So what exactly would we be voting on tonight, did you say?
Mr. Thompson, there's no vote per se tonight. We're just basically, because we're gonna have to spend money and design to further explore this. We just wanna make sure the board is
Okay.
in agreement to let us move forward so that we can in March bring you back a real big package with real costs.
Okay.
To vote on.
Thank you.
So you don't need a vote on this to proceed with the,
No, sir, I guess I
Okay.
just need to know if we
You
have-
said a nod of the head, but after Zug spoke, so he may feel like we didn't need a new, but move the lockers. Where he was saying move the lockers and make another.
Yeah, they're not using the lockers, so what Wes is saying is if we have an issue where we don't have enough fixture counts, if we're gonna add fixtures, we have to meet the current International Plumbing Code or the South Carolina Adopted Plumbing Code. And that mandates how many fixtures, and I'm assuming this meets that criteria. I noticed there's 2 family restrooms in here, which is another stipulation in the code. If you have more than 6 gang toilets in one room, you gotta have a family, quote unquote, a private toilet facility. And I noticed there's 2 on the lower level. I couldn't pick up on what was on the upper level, but,
So the number of fixtures determined by the number of students?
That's
Is that
correct.
just a hard count?
It is, so you take
What
the
is that?
students.
Any idea?
It's occupant load. I'm not sure the calculation, Mr.
Yeah.
President may know right offhand, but it's based on the occupant, the load of the building.
So they'll take every classroom, divide the square footage by 20 square feet. That's one student per 20 square feet. They'll take the gym, they'll take the media center, they'll take the auditorium, they'll take the whole school collectively as it was all occupied at 100%. Divide those numbers in half, female, male, and then there's a certain factor that they divide it to calculate that.
And they include walking distance to the restroom.
That's a 4 or 5 stalls on the restroom, isn't it?
That's why you
Is,
see the
is that
school-
locker area gonna be sufficient? Just to hear, just to hear that calculation. I mean, is the locker area that's not being used, those locker areas gonna be sufficient to have enough?
It is.
Okay.
They've drawn it up to be sufficient to meet that. So if you guys are in favor, we'll begin more work exploring this and bring you back a bid package to consider in March.
Uh,
I think we need to go ahead and look into, yeah.
Okay? Would you like to do that?
My thoughts.
If there's a need, I mean, I think you need to provide them with a need, and they are outdated.
Is there a reason we're not voting? Why don't we just,
I would vote to give him approval to proceed.
yeah,
into
let's
it.
vote
I
to
thought-
approve.
The head, the nod of the head was to go ahead and look at it, how much it would cost and all, and then bring that back to us.
A nod of the head is not an official,
Well, he didn't
anything.
ask for you to vote for it tonight. He just said that he would bring it back.
well, I make a motion that we accept the information that we've been given, and I make a motion we vote to approve.
I'll second it.
Discussion. I just noticed the conceptual $16-18 million with 10% contingency. Is that
Oh, no, that's
What
that's
is-
the note I had from a different project.
okay?
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure. I'm like, man, now that's a lot of that might change
That's a goal.
things.
Yeah.
That's a goal forward.
I think that would be a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of ballpark?
In talking, keep in mind it's very conceptual. The contractor put together some rough order of magnitude numbers, if you will, that I'm always hesitant to bring forward because they don't have real drawings to look at. But they did give me a number without contingency, without general conditions, that we're in that 1.6 million. So by the time we add in general conditions, contingency, we're going to be approaching.
Mr. Russell, can you restate the motion just so I can
Yeah,
hear it
okay.
again? I'm sorry.
Sure. I vote that we, I make a motion that we vote to approve moving forward with the project.
You have heard the motion of, Mr. Bradshaw. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Price. We have a motion and a second to approve or to do,
To move forward with the project.
To get a vote.
Right.
to get what?
To
He
make
made a
vote?
motion to vote.
To
So we
vote.
have to. He made a
Oh, I-
motion that he wants us to vote.
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to say that I make a motion we approve moving forward with the project in logical steps, so the next design phase.
Let me have a second.
Is that a clear
So you got a
motion?
second, you're gonna second it
Second.
again,
Yeah,
Mr. Price?
second.
Okay, so it's been,
In other words, that way, once we hit the ground running, if we do proceed with it, we want to make sure we have it done before school and back up. I think that's our main concern.
I'm just saying we vote on what he asked for. you
To
know.
give approval.
Instead of a nod
Further.
of the head, we're gonna vote, if it's okay.
all in favor of approving the vote for Mr. Price, what he was asking
Mr. Bradshaw.
Mr. Bradshaw, and Mr. Price seconded. So we all approve of what he's asking him to go ahead on with the project. Could I get a show of hands? So it seems like everybody wants to do that.
Not
Is that
everyone
all right?
voted.
Who was it?
I
Not
apologize.
inside.
I'm going to abstain. I'm sort of unclear on the motion, not against moving forward, just unclear on the motion.
Just kind of giving them official,
To move
permission to
ahead with
move
the
forward
design.
and design, look if we want to move forward with design and all that.
I understand. I'm
To
going to
give us a
abstain.
proposal, to make a proposal.
Yeah,
Yeah, just,
To make a proposal of what he's gonna do.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
So you still,
I abstain.
Seven in favor.
Abstain, one abstain.
One. Mr. K is not here.
and Miss, okay. So, he, one abstain, and so the rest of us, by show of hands again, and then we have, so that's 8. So it's approved to go ahead and you do what you need to do to bring back to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and this is just a discussion for the board. We do have our retirement banquet coming up May 6th. In the past, we have given our retirees an option between a cutting board and a watch. And there has been some talk about possibly doing something different. So if you do want to do something different for our retirees, this is the time to discuss it, because we were going to go back with the cutting boards and the watches. But if you want to do something different, I would love to hear the pleasure of the board so that we can make sure we have those items ordered and ready to celebrate our retirees on May 6th.
So we had informal discussions about payment for each retiree by the number of years, a certain amount. That's off the table now?
No, whatever the pleasure of the board.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you. You all can give us that tonight. If I've been 25 years, you're gonna give me $10 times 25.
It would be, the recommendation was for every year that you're in Anderson 5. So if you've worked in Anderson 5 for 25 years, they would give you $10 per year. So you would get a check for $250
Okay.
instead of the cutting board or the watch.
Do we have any estimate if we did that based on who we know is going to retire and it's early, what that might cost us versus what?
Well, we don't have
Cutting
that
board and-
solidified because we don't know
Yeah,
who
we
all is
don't.
retiring. Based upon last year, we looked, it was around $10,000, I think, Ms. Hurd, when we talked about that, approximately.
Yes.
So how many
As far as-
people?
And it's hard.
Last year's.
There's a couple of things
Yeah.
that go into play here. We don't know how many years folks are gonna have in Anderson 5. This'll have to be a payroll check. Payroll taxes and all are gonna have to come out of this check. So, are you wanting them to get $25? $10 per year grossed up, or $250 and then us run run it through the payroll calculator, which may be $207 when they actually get a check. So we did not budget for the cash in the current year budget. We just used the same dollar amount and the same estimate from the previous year. But I don't think it's probably double the amount what we have. But, some years, we're still gonna exceed that. And then some years we're gonna come in under. That is gonna be one of them. We're just gonna have to set the amount that they wanna spend and understand that based on the number of retirees and the years of service, we may miss it by a lot, and then we may miss it by a lot either way. We may overspend it, or we may not spend it all, just because folks retire all throughout the year. Some folks come to the banquet, some folks don't. Does the board wanna give it to everybody, even if you come to the banquet or don't come to the banquet? In the past, we only give you the gift if you come to the banquet. There's the retiring and coming back issue, when you did it. There's just some logistical things that we would need to work through that we need to work through.
So we just need to know how you would like us to proceed.
Some have said, but I'm gonna give you my mind. It's not a Rolex watch that you've given out, is it?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and then you getting a cutting board. Okay. And do you know how much money you've paid for those? But you don't know how many people are retiring, and you don't know if it's 25 years or 30 years.
Correct. It could be over 40 years.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Or it may be 2.
It could be, yes,
So
ma'am.
the gift, what we typically do is about $35 a person. So that's 3 to 4 years. So 40 years is $400, and the budget's always been about 35.
Okay, well, the
In
rest of the
addition
board.
to the meal, I mean, obviously, that's a separate piece, but the gift itself is anywhere from $35 to about $45.
Okay. Well, I don't know, because you hadn't gotten the finance of it, or how much it would cost, who's retiring, how many years they're retiring, so the other people on the board can talk. But, can speak their mind now, or whatever they want. But I would say the money, because it's not a Rolex watch and a cutting board. So, to me, that would suit me more than that. But that's just my opinion, so everybody else has theirs.
I like the way it was with it seemed like simpler. Personally, I like the cutting board that we got.
Yeah, I'm with Cindy. I like, and to me, typical
I'm not a cooker.
business 101, you give cash money, they enjoy it, and it's gone. If you give them something that's got your logo on there, they're gonna look at it every day, maybe the rest of their life. That's just my thoughts.
I would second that opinion, yeah, something this nice you can keep. The A5 logo is classic, and, yeah, I agree with Tommy. Plus the unpredictability of how much it's gonna cost, and I think it'd be significantly more if we, do the dollars.
I agree with Tommy and Tripp as well.
That's fine with me. I mean, you all
Yeah.
brought that up anyway, because you hadn't been giving them no money anyway.
Abstain.
Yeah. Paul, really?
So just stay where it is.
All right, so.
And it is a nice cutting board. Don't get me wrong, it's a kitchen. It's
It
nice,
is,
very
it
nice.
is, but I'm not a
I love
cooker,
it.
so,
I went for the cutting
I
board,
got
too.
it.
Yeah.
So I
Did you
am
get one?
hearing the pleasure of the board is to continue as we have done in the past, giving options for folks.
I thought-
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. All right, thank you. All right, so I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, what number we down
Let's
to
see, we
now?
Number 9.
Number 9. Okay, we have action items. November the 19th, 2024 board meeting minutes. We have an action item beginning with the minutes for the last meeting. Has everyone had the opportunity to review those minutes? I did look at them, and it was just one in there where the people came from the deltas to speak, and they asked for something, but I didn't see it in the minutes. They were asking to do something with the schools, I thought.
Okay, we can check on that. We'll
Okay.
get Ms. Wright to check her minutes on that.
Yeah, as I recall, there were several requests by that group, and they had a very thorough write-up. She went by her script, so I think that can be checked to find out what they were
All right, we will
asking
check on
for.
that.
Okay, we're gonna check on that. Do I have a motion to approve the minute?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, there's been approved, a motion has been made and second by Mr. Tripp and, was that you, Mr. Thompson?
ma'am.
And Mr. Thompson. So we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes in discussion. All in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand, and opposed, do the same thing. Did everybody raise their hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
make sure that that happens. Okay, so it, was approved, unanimously approved. Okay, policy, revisions.
Yes, ma'am. There was policy BBB, board membership elections, that was presented in November for first reading. And the only change that we presented at that time was Anderson County Board of Voter Registration and Elections was replacing what was currently in there, which said County Board of Education, a written notice of his or her intent. So that was outdated and needed to be updated.
I wonder how I knew how to go through that. I thought that was in the thing anyway, okay. Mr. Dukes, I think you had some of the addition things that you wanted to add to that.
Yes, Madam Chairman. As I discussed in our January 9th board work session, there were 3 policies related to board elections.
Point of order.
I said-
Shouldn't we get a motion on the table before we commence?
We'll
with
have discussion, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, policy BB board membership election. I get a motion to pass.
Motion.
Got a motion for Mr. Thompson,
Second.
second for Mr. Zug. Now,
Discussion.
is there a discussion?
Yes. Madam Chair, as I discussed in the January 9th board work session, there are 3 policies related to elections that I feel the board needs to address, and those policies, BBB is one of those policies. The other 2 is BBBC, board member resignation, and BBBE, unexpired term and fulfillment of vacancies. For those board members who were not present at our work session and for those who had to leave early, I informed the group that I became aware about a month before the election.
Point of order.
Yes.
Those policies are not on the agenda, so I think legally we can't discuss those in this meeting.
Then I'll stay specific to BBB. My request, and I'll make a motion within the motion that we table BBB, and I'd like to work with Ms. Hannah, our attorney. I've spoken to her about doing that, and I would like to work with her on BBB and the other 2 board policies and bring those back at a later time. So I got a motion, making a motion to table BBB currently.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, a second by, okay. Did you get it, Ms.? Okay. So it's been second, and, so all in favor of doing that, bringing it back,
Tabling it, yes.
tabling, show of hands? So that's everybody. So it's passed unanimously, so it was approved to bring it back.
Correct.
All right. The next policy is policy JKE, expulsion of students. And again, this one is second reading as well. First reading was in November. We were changing, in lieu of expulsion, students may be placed in alternative setting because we are utilizing the Renaissance Academy and we also are utilizing our ACE Academy. And the rule was also updated to provide more explicit details on the hearing panel and how the hearing panel is utilized when working with those students that have been recommended for expulsion. So those things have not changed since the first reading, and we are recommending second reading of that policy.
Okay. So that's the JKE?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Policy JKE, expulsion of students. Yes, ma'am.
Could I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the second reading on policy JKE, expulsion of students.
I'll second that.
So we got a motion and we got a second of the motion to wait for the reading of that later, right? That's what you were saying?
Approve-
Second reading.
To approve.
Second
We're on
reading.
second reading.
Yes,
To
Why
approve on
second
second
reading?
reading.
So we have a motion for the second reading and to approve the JKE. And is there any discussion? All in favor of approving the policy for the second reading, raise your hand, please. All opposed, so that motion is passed
All right.
unanimously.
And our last policy that we were presenting is the first reading. So this is the first time seeing this policy for revisions. It's policy KB, Parent and Family Engagement in Education. And we are presenting revisions for you if you're looking at the second page of the policy. This policy contained the language limited English proficiency. That is no longer utilized by the state. And so we need to update our policy to utilize the language used by the state. So instead of limited English proficiency, it now would read multilingual learner, which is the current identification. This used to be what we also called ESOL, English Second Language, and then it changed to the limited English, and now it's changed to multilingual learner. So that is the recommendation why this policy is being brought to you.
This is the first reading of.
Okay. This will be brought annually for you for Title I review as well.
Is that just to make sure it's correct, or?
Yes, so that's a federal regulation that
Okay.
they come in and check us on. It's just to make sure that you see what the schools
Okay.
are doing to engage their parents. So they just ask that So that's when we noticed the incorrect language, we want to get that correct for you, but I do want you to know that you will see this policy each year.
And the ML is the same monkey wrench they threw in our test scores, correct?
We did have more students with,
That we didn't know ahead of time, yeah.
yes, yes. I was actually looking at those numbers today. It was about 75 more children. Yeah.
I make a motion to accept first reading of this policy as presented.
Motion was made by Mr. Price for the first reading and then second by
Mr. Bradshaw.
Mr. Bradshaw. Is there any discussion? My thing is, my discussion is that I would like to also be aware of things that's going on with this parent and family, and I would like to know, when you're meeting with them, please let me know, so that I could meet with you all also
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
family and plan.
Yes, ma'am, and I include that in our weekly email. I listed out on the days of the week that things are happening, like STEM nights or,
Okay. Sometimes I read that past that time, just text me.
yes, ma'am, but
or
it is
something.
there, but yes, ma'am, I'll let you know.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the first reading of the policy KB, raise your hands. All approved, so the motion is passed unanimously.
All right.
The next three items on the agenda are approved of the continuous improvement plans of the three schools that meet with during our 5 o'clock meeting. I'm suggesting that we vote on the school plan individually. And those school plans is, at 5 o'clock meetings, each school present their plan of the improvement of the board, and the board members could ask questions for each school.
I'll make a motion that we approve Centerville's Elementary's continuous improvement plan.
Okay, that's okay, this one down there, okay. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we would do that, and, what about, is there any, is there any discussion?
I'm gonna follow suit in improving these plans, but I'll say that my first time through dealing with one of these, I'm putting a lot of trust in the administration to make sure we're doing what we need to do with these plans. I've looked through them, I read them word for word, but I'm putting a lot of trust in here. And we're all a team, we're all in this together as far as improving this district and these test scores.
Get a second.
Oh, could I get a second?
Oh, I second it.
Oh, she seconded, Ms. Burris, seconded. So, all in favor of the Centerville School, Elementary School continuous improvement, raise your hands, please. So everybody raise their hands, so that's passed, that's unanimously done. New Prospect Elementary School continuous improvement plan.
I'll make a motion to accept New Prospect Elementary School continuous improvement plan as presented.
And I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Price, second by, Mr. Bradshaw. Is there he seconded, we have a motion and second approved that the New Prospect Elementary School continuous improvement plan. Any discussion? All in favor by raising your hand. The New Prospect Elementary School continuous improvement plan. Is there anybody opposed it? So they didn't, so everybody raise their hand, so it's unanimous. Okay, the West Side Continuous Improvement Plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the Westside High School Continuous Improvement Plan.
I'll second.
Mrs. Zug is, made the motion, and it was seconded by Mr. Toops. Do you have, we have a motion and a second to approve the West Side Continuous, Improvement Plan and discussion. All in favor for approving it, raise your hand. Unanimously to do that, and, the motion was passed, so it's unanimous. Oh, good.
Executive session.
In the executive session, at this time, I ask a motion to go to executive session.
I make a
You
motion.
gotta read for what it's for.
Yes.
Okay, the following reasons is the section 3470A1, discussion of employment, appointment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, and release of employee related by the public body. And the second, section 3-4-7A2, receipt of legal advice relating to matters covered by the attorney-client privilege.
I make a motion, we go into executive session, Madam Chair.
It's been made by motion that we go, and I get a second.
Make a second.
We going into executive
That's
session.
the vote.
Let's vote.
We got to vote, we got to
gotta
vote.
vote.
Oh,
All in favor?
all in favor? Executive session.